Good to see you guys. And as we get started today, a lot of energy with the team as we begin our prep for New Orleans. Make sure as we're getting back and kickstarting everything back in, capturing that play style, which leads to the identity that we love to play with. So big day today and lots for us to improve on. We identified some of those things into Monday and now getting into the week. So let's get rocking with you guys.
So starting with injuries, what are you expecting from Andrew and then Noah and obviously Marshawn this week?
Yep. So Andrew has been cleared to fully participate in practice. And Marshawn is also fully participating in practice. Yes. And tough news on Noah. He's going to be out for a while. And so Brown. So he had a significant internal injury from the game. And so that's going to knock him out for a while. And we love him. And this play style, the identity of how he goes. And so that one hurts. He's been absolutely one of our glue guys. And after the game or during the game, between him and the medical staff, they did a really good job to address what was a serious injury. And, fortunately he's going to be okay, but it's going to knock him out for a bit.
Say for a bit, is this season ending for him?
Yeah, we'll visit that later this week, but it's likely, heading that way.
Okay, and I just want to ask one more on Marshawn too.
Sure.
How much can one defender add to a defense and change things for what you do?
Yeah, I think any defender, it's a lot of positions you could say that for, John. I think specifically with Marshawn, that's a big deal for us to add a player of his caliber to our team. And so not to make it, one different than the other, but anytime you can add, competition to a group, it's a really big deal. And Marshawn's, certainly, trended in the right direction for us to play. And so we'll take it through the whole week. We're not going to miss one step with him and the practicing and hitting all the markers. So if it trends that way good, then we'll go.
To stay with the corners
Sure.
with Mikey Sainristil, obviously he's not the tallest guy out there. How does he use what he does have, his lack of size, his whatever else he has, speed,
Yep.
to be as successful as he has been the last few weeks?
Yeah, you're right that there's an element of that's instinctual, to know how to play, somebody specifically, and that part of knowing where to go through the hands, how to play to a player, those things. And you could also say the same thing even from the tackling standpoint, he really understands leverage, Ben. And so in tackling, it's all about leverage. Can I get to the right spot? Can I get the right technique? And so from that standpoint, that's no surprise why he played well inside, because of understanding leverage and angles, and that carries over, when he's playing outside as well.
And you guys drafted a lot of guys who were team captains in college, including him, and obviously that's not just necessary for this year, but that's as you're building this. But in terms of this year, how is he, Mikey? How is that aspect of his persona helped you guys this year, or how has it manifested over the course of the year?
Probably the best way to say it, Ben, would be that we've got a group of guys that are part of a leadership crew here, and Mike's on it, and so that should say a lot. As a first-year player, that the other guys think of him in that way. And so I love seeing him develop in that way. And he's got some excellent mentors here to look after, but he's very intentional about improvement and getting better and finding the right things to hit on. And so that's the type of player that you want leading. And so, yeah, I'd heard he was remarkable in that sense before I met him. And I certainly have not been disappointed since then. I can remember asking a player there, if you could only bring one player with you from this group, who would it be? And the player was like, Mikey, why are you even asking me? And I thought to myself, okay, that's of a crew that had a lot of good players on that team. The player's response was Mike. And it wasn't even like a hesitation. It was almost like, I'm insulted that you asked that. So I thought that's a pretty good sign as what leading as a young guy would look like.
Hey, Dan, with Noah being out, how big of a loss is that offensively, and who do you want to see maybe get those snaps and kind of step up here?
Yeah, it is the hardest part as you're going through it for the game, and when you miss, significant time, and we've got a pretty deep crew there, and so that helps where guys can play into different spots, and you've probably seen some guys play outside, some guys play inside, and so having a deep crew allows you to do that, but Noah does have some specific size and speed traits that are unique to him. He's just such a tough, hard-ass competitor. And so I love that he brings that to the team. And I know he'll get back and he'll get, well, but it's definitely a tough one for us because of not just what he brings on the field, but also, Scott, what he brings off the field as a ball player and as a man.
When you took this job, Dan, you probably had some short-term expectations and long-term expectation. And as you go about it, where you're at today in the building, as a franchise, as a team, do you feel like your vision is ahead of schedule?
I didn't put a timetable on it to say there had to be something, by this marker or this date. Adam and I wanted to go after it together as hard as we could and, keep our head down to go. That's probably a better question, months from now when the season's done to say what are the things that we've accomplished that we wanted to so far, and now what are the steps that we want to go ahead. As it sits today, I don't think too far down the line or too far back for that matter. And the reason I do that is just throw it all into this week with the guys and dig in from there. But it's been like a really cool journey so far, and I haven't allowed myself to look, like I said, too far down one way or another. But the people, like most things, make the experience. And so that's the part that I'm really enjoying in those relationships with those people.
You said at the top you identified some things that you want to clean up. Can you clarify what
Sure.
those things are?
There's a number of things, but when you're you can't pick 30 things, right, Chick? So there's some line of scrimmage stuff that we wanted to make sure on both sides, the lead sled dogs, we're getting the right looks for the right, guys and putting them in the right spaces. And so those we're always going to dig in on third down, always. And then the winning time moments as the season goes along and the air gets a little thinner, you got to keep executing at a really high level. And we've all seen that, from, games over the weekend and that you watch to say those are the moments, Chick. And so we still do some. We just got done a walkthrough today that had some, specific end of game, end of half moments. We'll have some more at practice today and into tomorrow. So those are the ones that I don't think you ever feel like, okay, we've done enough there. You always want to stay ready. You always want to stay on it because so many of these games, I don't know, maybe there's 70% of them are within one score. It's a high number. And as it gets even, moving further, those are the moments, man, that when they come up, you got to nail them. So I don't ever want us to think, okay, we're good on that. We've done this 2 minute. We've done a clock. No. Let's do it again.
Dan, how weird or hard or difficult is it to get ready for a game where you don't know who the opposing quarterback is, and it seems like on some level there's 3 different options?
Yeah. I didn't know where you're going with that. How weird is it to start the question, but I get where you're going now. Yeah, we know. It's good, though. It's a good thing. It's only weird if it doesn't work. You really think about the system because Coach Kubiak in this system, although there's tape on all 3 quarterbacks, you want to look at what's the team do. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, if we had changed a player, you still run that system. It's not so different that one's this way and one's that way. Those teams, it can be even more difficult, to do. I can remember years back with, I hope I get the name right, with Cam Newton and Derek Anderson. I'm hoping I say that right. And they were much different in terms of the way they would feature players, where in this system, first year into that, there's a lot of the same calls. And it won't be all the same, but there'll be a lot of the same. So that's where we put our time and our effort in. From the specific players who are studying, the other ones, we've got the film on all 3, so that's how you have to prepare. It takes a little extra for the players, but you have to really train for what they do best and then work back from there.
And then with Crowder, open the window there. Any more importance to his return now that Noah's going to be out for some time? How do you view Crowder's role perhaps going forward, and where is he just in the injury process?
So he's had a good process of going through, and we haven't missed one step of his recovery. And that's the biggest piece. We were referring to Marshawn earlier, and it's the same thing with JC, to say all the way through to make sure there are no setbacks. We're pushing it forward. And then when we feel like, all right, it's game ready, then we'll go. So we'll make that decision after we go through practice. Could be this week or the following. We have some space and time to do that. His value as a returner, his value as a slot is proven. And so that's a good thing. But we're not going to miss one step. If he's ready and it fits, then we'll do it. And if we need more space and runway to do that, we'll go that way. So like most big decisions, you take the time you need to make the right decision, and then that's why they have this window, which I think honestly is a really good return to play format. Some people need longer windows and runways to return. Some injuries require that. Others don't need as much, so that's why, okay, this player doesn't need 7 days or 14 days. He only needs 7. So I think having the flexibility, it's just better for the players. And I don't know what the numbers say, but I would imagine that the re-injury rate is lower, because years ago when they were back, you go, and we're back, you go. And we're getting smarter, as we're moving forward, and I think that's a big piece of it.
Aside from quarterback, what do you see from this offense, is the offensive system and the players around them?
Well, I think featuring Kamara, as a runner, this is a fantastic player. And so when you run a zone scheme like they do, and you can really stick your foot in the ground, plant, and go. And for the teams that covered, for the people that covered, through Mike Shanahan here, and the speed off the ball, putting your foot in the ground, that's Alvin, and that's his speed. He can really stick his foot in the ground, jab, and then the other side is him as a receiver. And so it's not just screens, but when you can put a running back out in the slot or outside and throw the ball down the field, that changes things. So he's a fantastic fit in a good system. He's one of those rare players, whatever system you have, he's going to play well, but there's certain ones that fit guys more. So he's the focal point to me, but that's where it starts in the running game for them.
What have you seen on tape from Chase Young?
Really, from the right side, you see a strong edge setter, a guy who can absolutely bring it, tight end side, open side runs, and then chop club. So, a big athletic player. They've got a nice defensive line with some guys that can move and rush and put them into different locations and Chase right in the middle of all that.
Hey, Coach.
Hi, Donna.
Where have you seen the growth as far as the offensive line, as far as their pass and their run protection?
The last game was a big boost for us. We really have emphasized it, Donna, to make sure could our combinations be on point, and could we really nail down the things that we wanted to. Now, like most things, one game doesn't say, okay, everything's this or that, but staying in that pocket of putting the work in, because this is a really connected group, and so having Wiley back into that has been good. Luke has started at right and at left, so the group has played 7 or 8 guys and played well doing that. But to have everybody in concert and connected for all the practices, that's a big deal moving forward. And so those are the things that take place on the offensive side. It's so much of it is chemistry and the communication with those guys. And so having the chance to full speed work, that allows you to play really fast when the game comes, because you've already done some reps in practice that were at like a good pace. And so that's where those small advantages come in.
Same with the defense. Where have you seen that improvement?
The same spot for me in the run game, and certainly from the last game, but the same emphasis of in-run fits, into the go. We're still, digging in on to make sure that's all the time. And this group is a really good running offense. And so I love that that's the challenge for the guys for this week. They've got a bunch of different schemes and some like a really accomplished running group.
Last 3 will go Candy, Mitch, DA.
Hey, Coach. So when you had a moment to reflect into the, during the bye week and after, do you have any moments so far that you wish you could get those back? And what were some of those lessons learned, if so?
For sure. I would say looking back, most of them are, result of, a week of prep. What could we have done different? How could we have, got the guys ready? Because you want to look back. Each game, can I do like an after action from the whole week? What did we like? What was the preparation? What part of the game? What part, did we like or didn't like? So there's a number of those on wins and losses. At the end of it, though, I love that the team has been in the fight for all of them. Not to say I've loved the result of all of them, but I have loved, where we stand on that. Going out to Arizona was a big push for us to stay there and to get our team kind of connected more. And so I'd say that would have been one of the things that I thought was a turning point for us, where they could become more bonded and connected. Most of the ones that I'm not as pleased with, are usually related to scheme, or, early on we weren't tackling as well as I would like to see. We're still not getting the ball defensively at a rate that I think we need to. So those would be the things that, you look back and say, well, what else can we do? Why isn't that happening at the rate that I would be pleased with.
After 13 hard weeks over the bye week, you want the guys to kind of unplug a little bit and relax. How hard is it for them to kind of get re-engaged and get back, up to the play speed of an NFL, preparation week? And how do you make sure that this team isn't rusty as they go to New Orleans?
It's really important to come back on Monday and start that process so you can throw a hell of a practice today. If you had waited all the way till today, I think that's what you are vulnerable to. So when we came back, we wanted calls and communication and catching and all the movements that you need to play. And so that's where we started it Monday. And the good news was that the team came back energized, and ready to do that, to see one another. And so if you don't have that day, that makes it much harder to recapture what you want in the speed today. So I was pleased that we were able to capture that on Monday.
One last on Marshawn. Teams don't usually get a player of this caliber this late in the season making their debut with their team. And I know it's 1 week at a time, but how advantageous do you think it could be potentially to be able to throw a completely different look at a team that they haven't seen on film all year?
It's a big deal, Dave. You're right. And to add a player of this caliber like after the trade deadline, so to speak, and it just doesn't happen very often. And every once in a while there might be a player that comes back off an IR that had an injury that was there, and there is an energy that goes along with that. And so we're really pumped to have him and get rolling with him. But it does take a few games to get into that rhythm, with new people, but it can change the math. There's no doubt about that. And you're on the right topic, but it's important getting into the reps and going through that, over the next month, because then collectively, how do I communicate with him? There's an eye signal. A nonverbal call, those kind of things that you don't necessarily see at practice that happen in the game. And so that experience is really valuable too. All right, you guys have a good one.